Marcus Aurelius stood on the banks of the Danube River, the icy waters swirling beneath his feet as he gazed out upon the assembled Roman legions. It was the year 172 AD, and the emperor had ridden out to meet the threat of the Germanic tribes, who had been raiding Roman territories with increasing frequency. The air was crisp and cold, the only sound the distant clang of hammering on metal as the Roman armorers worked to ready the troops for battle. As he surveyed the lines, Marcus Aurelius's thoughts turned to the words of his mentor, Epictetus, who had written, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The emperor knew that the coming battle would be fierce, but he was determined to lead his troops to victory, no matter the cost. The Roman historian Cassius Dio would later write that the emperor's presence on the battlefield was a decisive factor in the Roman victory, as he rode among the troops, urging them on and sharing in their dangers. The battle was intense, with the Roman legions clashing against the fierce Germanic warriors in a flurry of steel and blood. Marcus Aurelius himself fought bravely, his sword rising and falling as he struck down enemy after enemy. Despite being outnumbered, the Romans held their ground, and eventually the Germanic tribes began to falter and fall back. As the dust settled, Marcus Aurelius stood victorious, his armor battered and his sword smeared with the blood of his enemies. But to understand how we got here, we must step back in time to the early life of Marcus Aurelius, who was born on April 26, 121 AD, in Rome, Italy. His early life was marked by tragedy, with the loss of his father at a young age, but he was adopted by his uncle, Antoninus Pius, who later became the emperor. Marcus Aurelius was educated in Greek and Roman philosophy, literature, and politics, and he developed a deep interest in Stoicism, a school of thought that emphasized reason, self-control, and inner strength. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus would later write, "We are not disturbed by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens to us." These words would become a guiding principle for Marcus Aurelius as he navigated the challenges of his life and reign. As we explore the life and times of Marcus Aurelius, we will see how his philosophical principles guided him, even in the face of great adversity. We will examine the historical context in which he lived, including the challenges he faced as emperor and the cultural and philosophical influences that shaped his thought. The Roman historian Edward Gibbon would later write that Marcus Aurelius was the most wise and just of all the Roman emperors, and we will see how his wisdom and justice were tested by the trials of his reign. Through his story, we will gain a deeper understanding of the ancient Roman world and the enduring legacy of Stoic philosophy. In the year 121 AD, a child was born in Rome, Italy, who would one day become one of the most revered philosophers and leaders of the ancient world, Marcus Aurelius. His father, Marcus Annius Verus, was a Roman senator and a member of the aristocracy, while his mother, Domitia Lucilla, was from a wealthy and influential family. The young Marcus Aurelius was raised in a household that valued education, philosophy, and public service, and from a young age, he demonstrated a keen interest in learning and a strong sense of curiosity. As a child, Marcus Aurelius was deeply influenced by the writings of Epictetus, a former slave who had become a prominent Stoic philosopher. Epictetus's teachings emphasized the importance of living in accordance with nature, cultivating inner strength and resilience, and accepting the things that are outside of one's control with equanimity. These ideas would later become central to Marcus Aurelius' own philosophical writings, as expressed in his book Meditations, which is divided into 12 short books, each exploring a different theme or idea, from the nature of the universe to the importance of living in the present moment. Marcus Aurelius' early life was marked by tragedy, with the loss of his father at a young age. However, he was adopted by his uncle, Antoninus Pius, who later became the emperor of Rome. Antoninus Pius was a just and fair ruler, known for his wisdom and his commitment to the welfare of the Roman people. Under his guidance, Marcus Aurelius received a thorough education in Greek and Roman philosophy, literature, and politics, and he developed a deep interest in Stoicism, which would remain a central part of his philosophical outlook for the rest of his life. As Marcus Aurelius grew older, he became increasingly involved in public life, serving as a senator and later as a consul. He was known for his integrity, his fairness, and his commitment to the principles of justice and compassion. In 161 AD, when Antoninus Pius died, Marcus Aurelius succeeded him as emperor, and he went on to rule Rome for nearly 2 decades, facing numerous challenges, including wars with Germanic tribes, a plague that devastated the empire, and a series of natural disasters. Despite these challenges, Marcus Aurelius remained committed to his philosophical principles, and he worked tirelessly to promote the welfare of the Roman people. He was a strong advocate for the rights of women and slaves, and he implemented a number of reforms aimed at reducing poverty and inequality. As the Roman historian Cassius Dio wrote, Marcus Aurelius was a man of great wisdom and justice, and he ruled the empire with kindness and compassion. This is evident in his Meditations, where he writes, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it," demonstrating his ability to balance his philosophical thoughts with the demands of ruling the empire. The Roman Empire during Marcus Aurelius's reign was a complex and multifaceted society, with a diverse population and a wide range of cultural and philosophical influences. The empire was home to many different ethnic and linguistic groups, and it was characterized by a rich and vibrant cultural landscape, with a strong emphasis on art, literature, and philosophy. As the historian Edward Gibbon wrote, the Roman Empire was a beacon of civilization in a world of darkness and barbarism, and Marcus Aurelius's reign was a time of great cultural and intellectual achievement, with many notable writers, artists, and thinkers making significant contributions to the empire's rich cultural heritage. In 172 AD, Marcus Aurelius faced one of the greatest challenges of his reign, when a major war broke out with the Germanic tribes along the Danube River. The war was fierce and devastating, with heavy losses on both sides, and it marked a significant turning point in the history of the Roman Empire. As Marcus Aurelius himself wrote in his Meditations, "The art of life is more like the wrestler's art than the dancer's," highlighting the struggles and challenges he faced during this period. The Roman Empire's military was a powerful and well-organized force, with a strong emphasis on discipline and training. The empire's soldiers were known for their bravery and their loyalty, and they played a crucial role in defending the empire against external threats. As the Roman historian Tacitus wrote, the Roman army was the backbone of the empire, and it was the key to the empire's survival and success. In the midst of these challenges, Marcus Aurelius found solace in his philosophical writings, and he continued to develop his ideas about the nature of the universe and the human condition. He was a deeply introspective and self-aware individual, and his writings offer a unique and intimate glimpse into the mind and heart of a remarkable leader. As he wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength," demonstrating his ability to balance his philosophical thoughts with the demands of ruling the empire. As the years passed, Marcus Aurelius's reign was marked by a series of significant events and challenges, from the outbreak of the plague to the wars with the Germanic tribes. Through it all, he remained committed to his philosophical principles, and he worked tirelessly to promote the welfare of the Roman people. His legacy as a philosopher and a leader has endured for centuries, and his writings continue to inspire and guide people to this day. As the historian Cassius Dio wrote, Marcus Aurelius was a great and wise emperor, and his reign was a golden age for the Roman Empire. In the stillness of the night, as the Roman Empire slumbered, Marcus Aurelius would often sit in contemplation, reflecting on the nature of the universe and the human condition. His thoughts would turn to the fleeting nature of life, the importance of living in the present moment, and the need to cultivate inner strength and resilience in the face of adversity. As he wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way," highlighting his ability to find opportunity in challenge. The sound of the wind rustling through the trees, the smell of the freshly cut grass, and the feel of the warm sun on his skin would all serve as reminders of the beauty and wonder of the natural world. As Marcus Aurelius sat in contemplation, he would feel a sense of peace and tranquility wash over him, and he would be filled with a sense of awe and wonder at the majesty of the universe. His thoughts would turn to the interconnectedness of all things, and the need to live in harmony with nature. As he wrote in his Meditations, all is ephemeral, both what remembers and what is remembered, highlighting the impermanence of all things. In the end, it was this deep sense of connection to the natural world and his commitment to living in accordance with its principles that would define Marcus Aurelius's legacy as a philosopher and a leader. His writings continue to inspire and guide people to this day, offering a unique and intimate glimpse into the mind and heart of a remarkable individual. As the historian Edward Gibbon wrote, Marcus Aurelius was a shining example of the power of philosophy to transform and elevate the human spirit, and his legacy will continue to endure for centuries to come. As Marcus Aurelius ascended to the throne in 161 AD, he was met with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The Roman Empire, which had been expanding its borders for centuries, was now facing a multitude of challenges, from the constant threat of barbarian invasions to the spreading plague that had already claimed countless lives. According to the Roman historian Cassius Dio, the empire's population had been dwindling, with some estimates suggesting that the plague had killed over 5 million people. Despite these challenges, Marcus Aurelius was determined to lead the empire with wisdom and justice, drawing on the philosophical principles he had learned from his mentor Epictetus. Marcus Aurelius's rise to power was not without its challenges, however. As a member of the Roman aristocracy, he had been born into a life of privilege, but his early years were marked by tragedy, including the loss of his father at a young age. He was subsequently adopted by his uncle, Antoninus Pius, who would later become the emperor. This experience had a profound impact on Marcus Aurelius, shaping his views on the importance of family, duty, and loyalty. As he navigated the complex web of Roman politics, he drew on the wisdom of Epictetus, who had taught him the value of living in accordance with nature and cultivating inner strength and resilience. One of the key challenges that Marcus Aurelius faced as emperor was the ongoing war with the Germanic tribes along the Danube River. The Roman legions had been fighting these battles for years, but the tribes seemed to be gaining the upper hand. According to the Roman historian Edward Gibbon, the war had been raging for over a decade, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Marcus Aurelius knew that he had to act decisively to protect the empire's borders and maintain the stability of the region. He spent countless hours studying the tactics of his predecessors and consulting with his generals, determined to find a solution to the crisis. As he delved deeper into the complexities of Roman politics and warfare, Marcus Aurelius began to develop his own philosophical ideas about the nature of power, duty, and morality. He was deeply influenced by the Stoic school of thought, which emphasized the importance of reason, self-control, and inner strength. In his Meditations, he wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This quote, which has become one of the most famous in philosophical literature, reflects the core of Marcus Aurelius's philosophy, that individuals have the power to shape their own destiny through their thoughts and actions. The spread of Stoic ideas throughout the Roman Empire was a gradual process, but it had a profound impact on the way people thought about the world and their place in it. As Marcus Aurelius traveled throughout the empire, he encountered people from all walks of life who were struggling to make sense of the chaos and uncertainty that surrounded them. He listened to their stories, offered words of comfort and advice, and shared his own insights about the importance of living in the present moment. According to the Roman historian Cassius Dio, Marcus Aurelius was loved by his people, who saw him as a wise and just leader who was committed to their well-being. As the years passed, Marcus Aurelius faced numerous challenges, from natural disasters to military defeats. In 169 AD, a devastating plague swept through the empire, killing hundreds of thousands of people. The plague, which was likely caused by the bubonic plague bacterium, had a profound impact on the social and economic fabric of the empire. According to the Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus, the plague led to widespread panic and disorder, with many people fleeing their homes in search of safety. Marcus Aurelius responded to the crisis by implementing a series of emergency measures, including the establishment of quarantine zones and the distribution of food and medical supplies to affected areas. Despite these challenges, Marcus Aurelius remained committed to his philosophical principles, using his meditations as a source of comfort and guidance. In one famous passage, he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This quote, which reflects the core of Marcus Aurelius's philosophy, emphasizes the importance of living in the present moment and appreciating the beauty and wonder of the world around us. As the Roman Empire continued to evolve and change, Marcus Aurelius' legacy as a wise and just leader endured. His commitment to Stoic principles, his willingness to listen and learn, and his determination to protect the empire's borders and promote the well-being of its people had a profound impact on the course of history. According to the Roman historian Edward Gibbon, Marcus Aurelius was one of the greatest emperors in Roman history, a leader who had brought stability and prosperity to the empire during a time of great turmoil and uncertainty. In the quiet hours of the night, as the empire slept, Marcus Aurelius would often sit at his desk, pen in hand, reflecting on the events of the day and the challenges that lay ahead. He would write in his meditations, pouring out his thoughts and feelings onto the page, seeking to make sense of the world and his place in it. As he wrote, he would often think about the people who had come before him, the great leaders and thinkers who had shaped the course of human history. He would think about the future too, wondering what lay in store for the empire and its people. And as he sat there, surrounded by the silence and darkness of the night, he would feel a sense of peace and contentment, knowing that he was doing his best to lead the empire with wisdom and justice. As Marcus Aurelius stood on the banks of the Danube River, he gazed out upon the vast expanse of the Roman Empire, his mind consumed by the weight of responsibility that rested upon his shoulders. It was the year 166 AD, and the empire was facing a crisis of unprecedented proportions. A plague, which had originated in the east, had spread rapidly throughout the empire, claiming the lives of over 5 million people, including a significant portion of the Roman legions. The historian Cassius Dio would later write that the plague was so devastating that it led to a severe shortage of labor, causing widespread economic disruption and social unrest. The plague had first appeared in the Roman Empire in 165 AD, during the reign of Marcus Aurelius, and it would continue to ravage the empire for over a decade. The Roman physician Galen, who lived through the plague, described its symptoms as including fever, diarrhea, and the formation of buboes, or swollen lymph nodes, in the groin, armpits, and neck. The plague was highly contagious and spread rapidly, facilitated by the empire's extensive trade networks and the movement of people and goods. As the plague spread, Marcus Aurelius was forced to confront the harsh reality of the situation. He had inherited a stable and prosperous empire from his predecessor, Antoninus Pius, but now he was faced with the daunting task of navigating the empire through its darkest hour. The Roman legions, which had long been the backbone of the empire's military power, were severely depleted, and the empire's borders were under attack from external enemies. The Germanic tribes, who had long been a thorn in the side of the Roman Empire, had taken advantage of the empire's weakness and were launching repeated attacks on the borders. In the face of this crisis, Marcus Aurelius made the difficult decision to raise new legions and to launch a series of military campaigns against the Germanic tribes. He spent much of the year 167 AD on campaign, traveling from one troubled region to another and personally overseeing the military operations. The historian Edward Gibbon would later write that Marcus Aurelius's military campaigns were marked by a series of brilliant victories, but at great cost in terms of human life. The Roman legions suffered heavy casualties, and the empire's economy was severely strained by the cost of the wars. As the war dragged on, Marcus Aurelius was forced to confront the personal costs of his decisions. He had always been a just and compassionate ruler, but the harsh realities of war had forced him to make difficult choices. He had been forced to order the execution of deserters and to impose harsh penalties on those who refused to serve in the legions. The Roman historian Herodian would later write that Marcus Aurelius was deeply troubled by the moral implications of his actions, and that he spent many sleepless nights grappling with the consequences of his decisions. Despite the challenges that he faced, Marcus Aurelius remained committed to his philosophical principles. He continued to write in his Meditations, a collection of personal reflections and musings on how to live a good life. In one famous passage, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This phrase, which has become one of the most famous in the history of philosophy, reflects Marcus Aurelius's determination to find a way forward, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. As the years passed, the plague slowly began to recede, and the empire began to recover. Marcus Aurelius continued to rule, guiding the empire through a period of gradual rebuilding and recovery. He implemented a series of reforms aimed at strengthening the empire's economy and military, and at promoting the welfare of its citizens. The Roman historian Ammianus Marcellinus would later write that Marcus Aurelius's reforms were marked by a spirit of justice and compassion, and that they helped to restore the empire's stability and prosperity. In the end, Marcus Aurelius's leadership during the crisis of the plague and the wars with the Germanic tribes would be remembered as one of the most significant moments in the history of the Roman Empire. He had faced unimaginable challenges and had emerged victorious, his reputation as a wise and just ruler cemented forever. As the historian Epictetus would later write, Marcus Aurelius was a true philosopher king, who ruled with wisdom and compassion, and who left behind a legacy that would be remembered for centuries to come. The Roman Empire would continue to face many challenges in the centuries that followed, but the example set by Marcus Aurelius would remain a powerful inspiration to future generations of leaders and citizens alike. As Marcus Aurelius stood on the banks of the Danube River, he gazed out at the vast expanse of the Roman Empire, his mind grappling with the weight of responsibility that rested on his shoulders. It was the year 172 AD, and the empire was still reeling from the devastating effects of the plague that had swept through its territories, claiming the lives of over 5 million people. The once mighty legions that had expanded the empire's borders were now struggling to maintain order, as the very fabric of Roman society seemed to be unraveling. In his personal reflections, as recorded in his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These words, penned during a time of great turmoil, would become a guiding principle for the emperor as he navigated the treacherous landscape of his reign. As he walked among the soldiers and civilians who had gathered along the riverbank, he was met with a mixture of awe and desperation, for many saw him as their only hope for survival in a world that seemed to be spiraling out of control. The historian Cassius Dio, who chronicled the events of Marcus Aurelius's reign, noted that the emperor's commitment to the principles of Stoicism had a profound impact on his decision-making, particularly during times of crisis. As Dio wrote, he was a man of great wisdom and justice, and he governed the empire with a firm but gentle hand. This assessment is borne out by the historical record, which shows that Marcus Aurelius implemented a range of policies aimed at alleviating the suffering of the poor and the vulnerable, from providing financial assistance to those affected by the plague to establishing programs for the care and education of orphaned children. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Marcus Aurelius found himself increasingly preoccupied with the question of how to restore stability to the empire. He spent long hours in conversation with his advisors, poring over reports from the provinces and seeking guidance from the wisdom of the ancient philosophers. The words of Epictetus, a former slave who had become one of the most influential Stoic philosophers of the time, echoed in his mind. "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." These words, which had been a source of comfort and inspiration to Marcus Aurelius throughout his life, took on a newfound significance as he grappled with the challenges that lay before him. One of the most significant challenges that Marcus Aurelius faced was the ongoing conflict with the Germanic tribes, who had been making incursions into Roman territory for years. In 172 AD, the emperor launched a series of military campaigns against the tribes, which ultimately resulted in the defeat of the Germanic chieftain Balamar. This victory, though costly in terms of lives lost, marked a turning point in the conflict. as it allowed the Romans to regain control of the Danube River and secure their borders. As the historian Herodian noted, the emperor's victory over the Germanic tribes was a significant blow to the barbarian hordes, and it marked the beginning of a new era of peace and prosperity for the Roman Empire. As the news of the victory spread throughout the empire, Marcus Aurelius was hailed as a hero, and his popularity soared. However, the emperor remained humble and grounded, recognizing that the true challenge lay not in winning battles, but in building a more just and equitable society. He continued to govern with wisdom and compassion, using his power to protect the weak and promote the common good. In his meditations, he wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to think, to breathe, to enjoy, to love." These words, which reflected his deep commitment to the values of Stoicism, would become a guiding principle for his reign, as he sought to create a world in which all people could live in peace and harmony. The years that followed were marked by a series of significant events, each of which had a profound impact on the course of Marcus Aurelius's reign. In 175 AD, the emperor faced a major challenge to his authority, as a rival claimant to the throne, Avidius Cassius, launched a rebellion in the eastern provinces. However, the rebellion was ultimately put down, and Avidius Cassius was defeated. This victory marked a significant turning point in Marcus Aurelius's reign, as it allowed him to consolidate his power and establish a new era of peace and stability throughout the empire. As the emperor looked out upon the empire, he knew that there was still much work to be done. The plague had left deep scars, and the conflict with the Germanic tribes had taken a heavy toll on the Roman legions. However, he also knew that the empire was resilient, and that its people were capable of overcoming even the most daunting challenges. In his meditations, he wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." These words, which reflected his deep understanding of the human condition, would become a guiding principle for his reign, as he sought to create a world in which all people could live in peace, harmony, and prosperity. In the end, it was not the grand battles or the sweeping reforms that defined Marcus Aurelius's reign, but the quiet moments of reflection, the stillness of the night, and the whispered words of wisdom that guided him on his journey. As he stood on the banks of the Danube River, gazing out at the vast expanse of the empire, he knew that he had been given a rare gift, the chance to make a difference in the world, to leave a lasting legacy that would outlast the ages. And with that knowledge, he steeled himself for the challenges that lay ahead, ready to face whatever the future might bring, armed with the wisdom of the ages and the courage of his convictions. As the dust settled, Marcus Aurelius surveyed the aftermath of the war with the Germanic tribes. The once mighty Roman legions had suffered significant losses, with estimates suggesting that over 20,000 soldiers had perished in the conflict. The emperor himself had been forced to flee the battlefield on more than one occasion, and his personal guard had been decimated. In a letter to his friend and fellow philosopher Fronto, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "I have seen the worst of humanity, and yet I still believe in the goodness of men." This sentiment would become a hallmark of his reign, as he struggled to rebuild and restore the empire to its former glory. The city of Rome, once a symbol of power and prosperity, was now a shadow of its former self. The plague, which had ravaged the empire for over 2 years, had left deep scars, with some estimates suggesting that over 5 million people had perished. The streets, once filled with the sounds of merchants and traders, were now empty and silent, a testament to the devastating impact of the disease. As the Roman historian Cassius Dio wrote, "The city was like a tomb, with the few remaining inhabitants wandering the empty streets like ghosts." The emperor, determined to restore the city to its former glory, invested heavily in rebuilding and repairing the damaged infrastructure, including the construction of a new aqueduct and the restoration of the Temple of Jupiter. In the months that followed, Marcus Aurelius faced numerous challenges as he sought to rebuild and restore the empire. The economy was in shambles, with trade and commerce severely disrupted by the war and the plague. The emperor was forced to implement a series of austerity measures, including a reduction in the number of public festivals and an increase in taxes. Despite these challenges, Marcus Aurelius remained committed to his philosophical principles, and his writings from this period, including his famous work, Meditations, reveal a deep sense of introspection and self-awareness. As he wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." This phrase, which would become a central theme of his philosophy, reflects the emperor's determination to find meaning and purpose in the face of adversity. As the empire slowly began to recover, Marcus Aurelius turned his attention to the task of rebuilding and restoring the damaged relationships with the neighboring tribes. He recognized that the war had been a disaster and that a new approach was needed if the empire was to survive and thrive. In a series of diplomatic letters, he reached out to the leaders of the Germanic tribes, seeking to establish a new era of peace and cooperation. The Roman historian Herodian wrote, "The emperor's letters were like a balm to the wounds of the war, soothing the savage beast and bringing hope to a generation that had known only conflict." This newfound approach to diplomacy would become a hallmark of Marcus Aurelius's reign, as he sought to establish a more peaceful and cooperative relationship with the neighboring tribes. The aftermath of the war also saw a significant increase in the number of slaves and prisoners of war being brought into the empire. Marcus Aurelius, who had always been opposed to the institution of slavery, saw this as an opportunity to implement reforms and improve the living conditions of these individuals. He established a series of laws and regulations, including the creation of a new office, the Magister Libertus, which was responsible for overseeing the treatment and welfare of slaves. As the Roman jurist, Ulpian, wrote, "The emperor's laws were like a beacon of hope, shining a light into the darkness of slavery and guiding us towards a more just and equitable society." This commitment to social justice and reform would become a central theme of Marcus Aurelius's reign, as he sought to create a more compassionate and equitable society. In the years that followed, Marcus Aurelius would face many more challenges, including a series of natural disasters, including earthquakes and floods, which would test the resilience and determination of the empire. However, through it all, he remained committed to his philosophical principles, and his writings continued to inspire and guide generations of philosophers and leaders. As the emperor himself wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This sentiment, which reflects the emperor's deep appreciation for the beauty and wonder of life, would become a central theme of his philosophy and would continue to inspire and guide people for centuries to come. The Roman Empire, under the leadership of Marcus Aurelius, slowly began to rebuild and recover from the devastating effects of the war and the plague. The emperor's commitment to his philosophical principles and his determination to create a more just and equitable society would become a hallmark of his reign. As the Roman historian Edward Gibbon wrote, "The reign of Marcus Aurelius was a golden age, a period of peace and prosperity during which the empire reached the zenith of its power and influence." This assessment, which reflects the emperor's many achievements and accomplishments, would become the dominant view of his reign and would cement his place as one of the greatest leaders in Roman history. As the years passed, Marcus Aurelius's reputation as a wise and just leader continued to grow, and his writings, including his famous work, Meditations, became widely read and studied throughout the empire. The emperor's commitment to his philosophical principles and his determination to create a more compassionate and equitable society would inspire generations of leaders and philosophers, and would leave a lasting legacy that would continue to shape the course of human history. In a letter to his friend and fellow philosopher Lucius, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is a single, living being, and we are all part of it, connected and interdependent." This sentiment, which reflects the emperor's deep appreciation for the interconnectedness of all things, would become a central theme of his philosophy and would continue to inspire and guide people for centuries to come. The legacy of Marcus Aurelius would continue to shape the course of human history, inspiring generations of leaders and philosophers to strive for wisdom, justice, and compassion. As the Roman historian Cassius Dio wrote, "Marcus Aurelius was a truly remarkable man, a philosopher king who ruled the empire with wisdom and justice." This assessment, which reflects the emperor's many achievements and accomplishments, would become the dominant view of his reign and would cement his place as one of the greatest leaders in Roman history. The emperor's commitment to his philosophical principles and his determination to create a more just and equitable society would leave a lasting legacy that would continue to inspire and guide people for centuries to come. In the final years of his reign, Marcus Aurelius would face many challenges, including a series of military conflicts and a devastating plague that would sweep through the empire. However, through it all, he remained committed to his philosophical principles, and his writings continued to inspire and guide generations of philosophers and leaders. As the emperor himself wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This sentiment, which reflects the emperor's deep appreciation for the power of adversity to shape and transform us, would become a central theme of his philosophy and would continue to inspire and guide people for centuries to come. The legacy of Marcus Aurelius would continue to shape the course of human history, inspiring generations of leaders and philosophers to strive for wisdom, justice, and compassion. As the centuries passed, Marcus Aurelius's legacy continued to evolve, influenced by the tumultuous events that shaped the Roman Empire. The historian Edward Gibbon, writing in the 18th century, would later describe Marcus Aurelius as the most intelligent and humane of the Roman emperors, whose reign was marked by a perpetual struggle against the forces of barbarism and corruption. According to Gibbon, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, written in Greek, remained a relatively obscure work until the 16th century, when it was rediscovered and translated into Latin by the scholar Wilhelm Xylander. This translation, published in 1558, helped to revive interest in Marcus Aurelius' philosophy, which would go on to influence thinkers such as René Descartes and Immanuel Kant. The impact of Marcus Aurelius's reign on the Roman Empire was profound, with his commitment to justice, equality, and compassion helping to promote a sense of stability and security throughout the empire. As the historian Cassius Dio wrote, Marcus Aurelius's administration was marked by a most diligent attention to the interests of the people, with the emperor taking steps to reduce poverty, improve public health, and promote education. For example, Marcus Aurelius established a system of public libraries and schools, which helped to increase literacy rates and provide opportunities for social mobility. Additionally, he implemented a series of economic reforms, including the creation of a new currency and the establishment of trade agreements with neighboring countries. These reforms helped to stimulate economic growth and reduce inequality, with the Roman economy experiencing a period of significant expansion during Marcus Aurelius's reign. Despite these achievements, Marcus Aurelius's legacy was not without its challenges. The Roman Empire faced numerous threats during his reign, including wars with Germanic tribes, a devastating plague that killed an estimated 5 million people, and a series of natural disasters, including earthquakes and floods. As the historian Herodian wrote, Marcus Aurelius' response to these challenges was marked by a most resolute and courageous spirit, with the emperor taking bold action to address the crises facing the empire. For instance, Marcus Aurelius launched a series of military campaigns against the Germanic tribes, which helped to secure the empire's borders and protect its citizens. He also implemented a series of public health measures, including the creation of quarantine stations and the distribution of medical supplies, which helped to mitigate the impact of the plague. The Meditations, which Marcus Aurelius wrote during his reign, offer a unique insight into the emperor's thoughts and feelings about the challenges he faced. As he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This quote, which has become one of the most famous passages from the Meditations, reflects Marcus Aurelius's commitment to Stoic philosophy, which emphasized the importance of reason, self-control, and inner strength. The Meditations also reveal Marcus Aurelius's deep sense of compassion and empathy for others, with the emperor writing, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." This quote, which reflects Marcus Aurelius' experiences as a leader, highlights the importance of treating others with kindness and respect, even in the face of adversity. In the centuries that followed, Marcus Aurelius's legacy continued to inspire and influence thinkers and leaders. The philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, writing in the 18th century, would praise Marcus Aurelius as a great and wise prince, whose commitment to justice and compassion had helped to promote a sense of human dignity and worth. Similarly, the statesman and philosopher Thomas Jefferson would cite Marcus Aurelius as a key influence on his own thoughts about governance and leadership. As Jefferson wrote, "The opinions of Marcus Aurelius, as expressed in his Meditations, are worthy of consideration by all who aspire to wisdom and virtue." The impact of Marcus Aurelius' legacy can also be seen in the many institutions and organizations that have been established in his name, including the Marcus Aurelius Foundation, which promotes education and cultural exchange between nations. As the years passed, Marcus Aurelius's legacy became increasingly mythologized, with the emperor being portrayed as a kind of philosophical saint. However, this portrayal has been subject to critique and revision by historians, who have sought to provide a more nuanced and balanced understanding of Marcus Aurelius's life and reign. For example, the historian Peter Brown has argued that Marcus Aurelius's commitment to Stoic philosophy was not always consistent, and that the emperor's actions were often driven by a desire to maintain power and stability rather than to promote philosophical ideals. Similarly, the historian Arnaldo Momigliano has suggested that Marcus Aurelius' legacy has been distorted by the passage of time, and that the emperor's true character and intentions have been lost in the myth-making process. Despite these challenges, Marcus Aurelius' legacy remains an important part of our cultural heritage, offering insights into the human experience that are just as relevant today as they were in ancient Rome. As the historian Cassius Dio wrote, Marcus Aurelius' Meditations remain a most valuable and instructive work, which continues to inspire and educate readers around the world. The Meditations have been translated into many languages and have sold millions of copies worldwide, making them one of the most widely read and influential philosophical works of all time. Additionally, Marcus Aurelius's legacy can be seen in the many fields that he influenced, including philosophy, politics, and literature. His commitment to reason, self-control, and inner strength has inspired countless individuals throughout history, from philosophers and politicians to artists and writers. In conclusion, Marcus Aurelius' legacy is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, which continues to inspire and influence people around the world. Through his meditations and his actions as emperor, Marcus Aurelius has left an indelible mark on human history, promoting a sense of justice, equality, and compassion that remains essential to our shared values and aspirations. As we reflect on Marcus Aurelius's life and reign, we are reminded of the importance of living in accordance with nature, cultivating inner strength and resilience, and appreciating the beauty and wonder of the world around us. By embracing these values, we can create a more just and compassionate world where individuals can thrive and reach their full potential. With this in mind, let us continue to explore the life and legacy of Marcus Aurelius and to learn from the wisdom and insights that he has left us. As the Roman Empire's vast expanse stretched out before him, Marcus Aurelius's thoughts turned to the human condition and the intricate web of relationships that bound people together. In his Meditations, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These words, penned in the quiet moments of his reign, speak to the enduring power of resilience and determination. The year was 180 AD, and Marcus Aurelius, now an old man, had seen the rise and fall of empires, the ebb and flow of human fortune. He had walked among the people, bearing witness to their struggles, their triumphs, and their defeats. The philosopher king's musings on the nature of humanity are a testament to his profound understanding of the complexities that shape us. As he navigated the treacherous waters of politics and war, he remained steadfast in his commitment to justice, equality, and compassion. The Roman Empire, with its vast network of roads, its bustling markets, and its cosmopolitan cities, was a microcosm of human experience. It was a place where people from all walks of life came together, where cultures intersected, and where the boundaries of identity were constantly being negotiated. In this vast and diverse landscape, Marcus Aurelius found solace in the words of his mentor, Epictetus, who had written, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." As the shadows lengthened and the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, Marcus Aurelius's thoughts turned to the legacy he would leave behind. He knew that his reign, marked by turmoil and strife, would be remembered for its challenges, but also for its triumphs. The Roman Empire, though battered and bruised, still stood, a testament to the enduring power of human ingenuity and perseverance. In the stillness of the night as the world slumbered, Marcus Aurelius's words whispered through the ages, a reminder of the transformative power of wisdom, compassion, and courage. As you drift off to sleep, carry with you the image of this remarkable leader, standing at the crossroads of history, his heart filled with a deep love for humanity, and his spirit illuminated by the wisdom of the ages.